What's up, everybody? Nick O'Dwyer back with the 10th inning, giving you another edition of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw Muhammad Ali get his final knockout victory in his illustrious career, as well as a lot of Indianapolis 500 winners. In today's episode, we also have another long episode, a lot of stuff to dig into, so I'll get right into it. Before we do that though, if you all enjoy this video, leave a like down on it for me. If you're new to the channel and you liked what you see, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into it. This day in sports history. Today we start out in 1935 with Jesse Owens, and we start out with the greatest 45 minutes in sports history. Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points in a game. You thought that was great? This might be even better. In 1935 at the Big Ten meet at Ferry Field in Ann Arbor, Jesse Owens tied or broke 4 world records in a span of 45 minutes. This was before they started doing meter dashes, so this was still yard dashes. But in the 100-yard dash, Owens tied the world record with 9.4 seconds. Then he set world records for these next 3 activities. The long jump at 26 feet, 8¼ inches, over a half foot longer than the previous record. The 220-yard dash, in which he got 20.3 seconds over 20.6 seconds, the previous record. Then the 220 low hurdles, which he had 22.6 seconds. With the advancements and everything that's occurred since then, all of Owens' records have now been blown out the water, but at that time, he was by far the best athlete in the world, and it was pretty obvious. You don't tie or set 4 world records in one day if you're not a hell of an athlete. Moving up to 1935, Babe Ruth, playing for the Boston Braves at the time, hits his final 3 home runs of his career in his final game, 712, 713, 714. The Braves were in Pittsburgh that day, and they still lost the game even with Ruth's 3 home runs, 11-7. His home run in the first inning came off Red Lucas, and then in the 3rd inning and the 7th inning, they came off Guy Bush. After that game, Ruth called it quits. He never played another game in his career, but he ended it kind of like he came in when he became a full-time hitter, with a bang. 4 years later, in 1939, Carl Stork became the 2nd NFL president. This only lasted for 2 years, as in 1941, the NFL voted on a commissioner. Stork was not voted as the commissioner. He felt a little betrayed. He co-founded the league, so he felt betrayed when he wasn't voted as commissioner, and he kind of took it a little personally. But I think it's pretty fair to say he was not happy with the initial decision not to vote him as commissioner. In 1941, the same year that Stork resigned, Ted Williams raised his batting average to over 400 for the first time of that season. And baseball fans know, Ted Williams that season went on to bat 407. And this day was the first day that Williams raised his average over the 400 mark. 1941 won for the record books. In 1948, at the PGA Championship at Norwood Hills Country Club, Ben Hogan scored a convincing 7-6 win over Mike Ternessa in the Tuesday final for his 2nd PGA crown. This would be the last PGA crown he would get, but this would be the 2nd of 9 major titles that Hogan would win in his career. In 1951, maybe the greatest player to ever grace the sport of baseball made his debut today. New York Giant Willie Mays plays his first major league game. He went 0 for 5, but I think we all know how it worked out for Willie Mays. He's one of the best players all around. Legitimate 5-tool threat. Power, contact, speed, arm, defense. He could do everything you ever wanted, and today he made his debut. In 1959, a little bit of good news here, I guess. Should have never been this way to begin with. The U.S. Supreme Court rules Louisiana prohibiting black-white boxing unconstitutional. Again, some good news. Never ever should have been that way, but based on the circumstances, good news. We talked about a Muhammad Ali knockout yesterday, how he got his last knockout of his career yesterday. Well, in 1965, during their 2nd meeting, Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston in round 1 for his first title defense since he won the belt from Liston. 2 minutes and 12 seconds into the fight, Liston was on the ground, wouldn't get up. This match actually came after Ali had to get emergency surgery on a hernia. So the match was rescheduled, and when it came back, Ali was hungry. Ali knocked him out in the first round. After their first meeting, it went 5 rounds for Ali to gain the championship. At the European Cup final in 1967, Glasgow Celtic defeated Internazionale 2-1, becoming the first British team to ever win the cup. Sandro Mazzola scored a 7th-minute goal for Inter. Then Tommy Gamel and Stephen Chalmers for the 63rd and 84th minute scored for Celtic, giving Celtic the victory and their first European Cup title. At the third edition of the ABA Championships in 1970, it's a team we've heard before. It's a team we know. The Indiana Pacers, not the George McGinnis-led Indiana Pacers, but the Indiana Pacers nonetheless defeated the LA Stars 4-2. The Pacers were led by Roger Brown in that series, averaging 32.7 points. The Stars had George Stone averaging 24.7. The Pacers won games 1, 2, and 4 and won a close game 6, 111-107. In this third ABA championship, this was the Pacers' second appearance and their first time capturing the title. Going to another knockout in 1972, Joe Frazier knocks out competitor Ron Stander. This was Frazier's fourth title defense, and I'm pretty sure he made his mark. Stander needed 32 stitches after the fight. Either that punch hit really well, or he just found the best spot to do it, or both. Either way, Joe Frazier wins via the knockout, retains the heavyweight belt. At the 29th edition of the NBA Championship in 1975, the Warriors were going up against the Bullets, and the Warriors ended up defeating the Bullets in 4 games. This wasn't really a competition. Rick Barry led the Warriors to the championship. Even though the Bullets had Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld, Rick Barry proved to be too much during the series. Wes Unseld, he was a great rebounder, didn't score as much as he probably could have that whole series. Elvin Hayes, same thing. But Rick Barry did everything he could to ensure his team would win. It's exactly what happened. Also in 1975, we have another Indianapolis 500 winner. Bobby Unser wins in 2 hours, 54 minutes, and 55.064 seconds to capture his second title. Now this 500 was a little bit different because it only went 174 laps, 26 laps short of the 200 due to a downpour, and Unser was in the lead when it happened, therefore he won the Indy. At the 21st European Cup in 1977, Liverpool defeated Borussia Mönchengladbach 3-1. Terry McDermott scored a goal at the 28th minute for Liverpool. Simonson scored a 52nd minute goal for Borussia to tie the game up. Then Liverpool ended it. Tommy Smith and Phil Neal at the 64th and 82nd minute put the game on ice for Liverpool, giving them that European Cup. At the Stanley Cups in 1978, the Montreal Canadiens were looking for a three-peat. They were going up against the Boston Bruins, and the Canadiens ended up getting that three-peat, winning the series 4-2 with a 4-1 victory in Game 6. Mario Tremblay scored twice in the 4-1 victory for the Canadiens. The Canadiens won the first 2 games at home, then lost the next 2, and then won the next 2, winning their third straight championship. Another Indianapolis 500, this time in 1980. Johnny Rutherford wins by 29.92 seconds, almost 30 seconds ahead of the guy in second place to capture his third and final Indy 500 championship. But just think about that, 29.92 seconds, almost 30 seconds. That is insane to think how good he must have been racing that day. Going to baseball in 1981, Carl Yastrzemski becomes the 4th player to join the 3,000 Club. The 3,000 Club, more than 4 people have gotten 3,000 hits. What are you saying? No, he becomes the 4th player to play in 3,000 baseball games, joining Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, and Hank Aaron. This shows longevity. Carl Yastrzemski had longevity on top of everything else in his Hall of Fame career. A year later, we see another 3,000 Club member. This time it's Fergie Jenkins though. He becomes the 7th member of the 3,000 Strikeout Club. In the game, Jenkins 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts in the game. Those 4 strikeouts on that list, becoming the 7th member at the time to join that list. At the 27th European Cup in 1983, Hamburg beats Juventus 1-0 with a goal by Felix Magath in the 9th minute for the first European title by Hamburg. 3 years later in 1986, we see another milestone for a baseball player. Kansas City third baseman George Brett records his 2,000th hit in a 17-inning game. He only managed to get 1 hit in that game, but that 1 hit got him his 2,000th. At the 32nd European Cup in 1988, PSV Eindhoven defeats Benfica 6-5 on penalties. For Eindhoven, this secured the treble of the Dutch Cup. Even though it was a very cautious match going all the way, it was still exciting all the way because who was going to score first? Who was going to get the victory? Eindhoven ended up defeating Benfica by 1 point on penalties. In 1989, the Montreal Canadiens were looking once again to add a Stanley Cup to their collection, this time going up against the Calgary Flames. However, the Flames ended up beating the Canadiens 4-2 to win the series. This was the Flames' first Stanley Cup championship. The Flames won Game 1, lost 2 and 3, down 2-1. They won Game 4, 5, and 6. In Game 6, they were up 2-1 after 6 periods, then added 2 more goals in the third by Doug Gilmour, one being an empty netter, ended up winning 4-1 in Game 6 to win the Stanley Cup. 2 years later, we have another final game in the Stanley Cup, this time the Pittsburgh Penguins going up against the Minnesota North Stars. This game, definition of a blowout. The Penguins ended up defeating the Stars 8-0 for a 4-2 series victory. This was the Penguins' first Stanley Cup appearance and first Stanley Cup title, obviously. The North Stars ended up winning games 1 and 3. In the Penguins' wins, they dominated, especially with that 8-0 victory in Game 6. During Game 6, 7 different players scored their 8 goals, with Joe Mullen the only person scoring 2 goals. Mario Lemieux also had 4 points on the day, 1 goal, 3 assists. In 1996, the first Super Rugby final occurred, and the Auckland Blues were going up against the Natal Sharks. The Blues ended up winning the inaugural title with a 45-21 victory. Adrian Cashmore led the Blues with 3 penalties and 3 conversions to help lead the Blues to victory. At the Eastern Conference Final for the NHL in 1997, the Philadelphia Flyers were going up against the New York Rangers. The Flyers ended up winning 4-1. The Rangers took Game 2, but the Flyers won Game 5, 4-2. The score was 3-2 after the first period. A lot of scoring going on there, but the Flyers ended up adding 1 more in the third period to capture that 4-2 victory, move on to the Stanley Cup. The Super Rugby Final in 2002 pitted the Crusaders going up against the ACT Bunbury's. This would be the Crusaders' 4th Super Rugby Cup title, when they won 31-13. Andrew Mertens booted 3 penalties, a conversion, and a drop goal for the Crusaders in their title victory. In 2003, we have another Indianapolis 500. Gil DeFerrin wins in 3 hours, 11 minutes, 56.989 seconds, and Helio Castroneves ended up coming in second place right behind him. They were teammates. I'm sure Castroneves was happy about it. But this could have been a three-peat for him. He won in 01. He won in 02, and he came in second in 03. Must have been tough for him. I'm sure he was happy for his teammate DeFerrin. At the 13th edition of the UEFA Champions League final in 2005, Liverpool ended up defeating Milan 3-2 on penalties. The game was 3-3 after regular and extra time, so they went to penalties. Milan scored 3 goals in the first half. Paolo Maldini scored in the first minute, and Herman Crespo scored in the 39th and the 44th minute. Liverpool, however, came back, scored 3 in the second half, with Steven Gerrard scoring in the 54th minute, Vladimir Smicer scoring in the 56th, and Xabi Alonso scoring in the 60th minute. When they got to penalties, Milan ended up missing the first 2 penalty kicks, and when it came to the 5th and final attempt at the penalty kick, they ended up missing, giving Liverpool the victory. In 2008, we have another Indianapolis 500, and Scott Dixon ended up winning with a time of 3 hours, 28 minutes, 57.6792 seconds, his only victory at the Indies. Also in 2008, at the Senior PGA Championship at Oak Hill Country Club, Jay Haas won his second title in the event, 1 stroke ahead of Bernard Launder. At the NHL Eastern Conference Finals in 2012, the New Jersey Devils defeated the New York Rangers 4-2. The Rangers won games 1 and 3, and the Devils won game 6 in an OT game. It was 2-0 after the first period, 2-0 Devils after the first period. The Rangers came back, tied it up 2-2 after the second. Then Adam Henrique scored the game-winning goal a minute into overtime to give the Devils the series victory. Also in 2013 at the UEFA Champions League final, Bayern Munich ended up defeating Borussia Dortmund 2-1. Arjen Robben scored twice for Bayern Munich in the victory. This was the first all-German final, and Dortmund's goal during the game was off of a penalty, and Robben ended the match. Robben already had 1 goal, scored the game-winning goal in the 89th minute for Munich to get the win. A year later in 2014 at the Indianapolis 500, Ryan Hunter-Reay wins his first and only Indianapolis 500 with a time of 2 hours, 40 minutes, 48.2305 seconds. Then finally in 2014 at the Senior PGA Championship at the golf course at Shore Harbor, Colin Montgomery wins the first of 3 Champions Tour majors by 4 strokes ahead of Tom Watson. So there we go. That's what happened today in sports history. If I left anything out, let me know down in the comment section. Everybody, stay safe out there. Nick O'Dwyer, see ya.